So the next thing we got for you today is Fall Brawl, and that happened on September 15th, 1996. And some tidbits about this, the attendance here was 11,300, and I believe you told me the maximum was 14,000, so for wrestling, they fill at the house. And the amount of pay-per-view buys that I saw online was 230,000, which I'm assuming is a pretty decent number. I should have mentioned that this pay-per-view has 2 rings side by side. But to start the show, we see a recap of the NWO bashing in Luger's rental car with baseball bats. And this happened on the Saturday night show. But the big story coming in is who will be the 4th man for Team WCW, since Sting has presumably joined the NWO. We'll see.
Turncoat, Benedict Arnold.
But for the first match we have is Diamond Dallas Page versus Chavo Guerrero. And the trend continues for DDP. He's starting to get more and more cheers.
And if you remember, he is facing Chavo because he has been feuding with Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero defeated Diamond Dallas Page for the Battle Bowl ring, and then Diamond Dallas Page attacked Eddie Guerrero. So Chavo is fighting for his Uncle Eddie.
For his honor. I don't like how you undersold the Battle Bowl win. That ring means everything.
Bro, after this feud with DDP and the Guerreros, they don't even talk about Battle Bowl anymore.
They really don't even mention it after Eddie Guerrero wins it.
Yeah.
At one point, DDP hits Chavo with a beautiful spinning powerbomb for a 2 count. And then he goes for the diamond cutter, but Chavo tries to sneak a pin on DDP, but DDP reverses Chavo's reversal, and he reverses that into the diamond cutter for the win.
It was not a bad match. I will say that the ending is what helped.
Yeah, the match was 13 minutes and 7 seconds. It's a little longer than I would have liked. Now, this was Eddie Guerrero, sure, 13 minutes is fine. But Chavo's, why would you care about Chavo just because he's related to Eddie? I need more than that.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah, that's what I give it.
Great minds think alike. The main reason is because the beginning and ends were good, but the middle was dull. So that's that. But like I said, not a bad match, but we continue the Eddie Guerrero DDP feud. So after that, though, we go to a Mean Gene special report, and he calls it The Attack. And in this report, Mean Gene recaps the entire NWO storyline from beginning to where we are now. And I mean everything. So if you missed it, he recapped it right here. But the next match we have is Scott Norton versus Ice Train with Teddy Long, and this is a submission match. This is the second submission match they've had. They had one at Hog Wild. Scott Norton won that one.
Well, okay, so there's a spot where like Teddy keeps trying to get involved, and eventually Norton grabs him.
Yeah, I will say before you get there, the arm bar that Scott Norton had applied where Teddy Long was looking like he's going to throw in the towel, that was a weak-ass arm bar. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, that was pretty weak.
Either way, Teddy Long does jump an apron, and it appears as if he is going to throw in the towel, but Scott Norton sees him, so he lets go of the arm bar, and then he grabs Teddy Long by the collar, and then Ice Train takes advantage of this distraction and puts Scott Norton into a full Nelson, and Norton taps out. I would say I looked at the opinions online on this one, and I would say I probably like this match more than most, and I gave it a 2.25.
I gave it a 1 3/4.
I mean, that's not too far apart.
I mean, I didn't hate it.
Yeah, the match at Hog Wild, though, I think was better.
Yeah.
The main issue is that a submission match just is not the type of match for these guys. They're not submission wrestlers.
Yeah, they should like a brawl would have been nice. I guess Scott Norton really want to get that armbar over, but like he doesn't, and then eventually does the powerbomb, which he does get over.
Yeah, I think they were held back by the stipulations, though. But that's essentially it for this feud.
We shall see.
But we'll go to our third match of the evening, and it is Juventud Guerrera versus Conan with Jimmy Hart, and this is for the AAA Mexican Heavyweight Championship. And some info on this title. In AAA, they called it the America's Heavyweight Championship, and it was a secondary title in AAA, and they ignored the title after Conan became a full-time wrestler in WCW, so he kind of took that belt with him. Oh, Jacob, did you see during Juventud Guerrera's entrance where he tripped on the stairs?
He absolutely eats it.
But yeah, sorry, Hoovy, I saw it. And guess what? I'm going to show everyone else too, so now they're going to see it.
Juventud at this point was very off and on, and he got sloppy here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, he's essentially a jobber, and like you said, he is sloppy at times. He gets a lot better once he starts getting more confident. I think he's still just trying to find his way to adapt to this sort of style. But yeah, he is not as good as he's going to be, but I'll just go ahead to the finish. The finish for this match is Conan wins with the power drop, which if you don't know what that is essentially a razor's edge into a power bomb. The crowd was actually into this match more than I thought, and I think that's mainly because they like this version of Conan versus the other one. I think if the other version of Conan was in this, they would have been bored to tears with this match. And the only other downside to the match, I would say, is that this is for a title that nobody cares about. This is a title in name only to us. It means nothing to me. Maybe it means something to somebody. I don't care about it. But either way, I did give this match a 2.75 out of 5.
Yeah, 2.5.
Right around the same lines there. Oh, and by the way, that match was 13 minutes and 45 seconds. And I don't think I mentioned it for the Ice Train match. That was 7 minutes, 8 seconds, which is a good amount of time for those two. That's fine.
You don't need them going that long.
But we'll go to our next match, and it is going to be Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit. Benoit makes his entrance, and he is over like Rover. Everyone loves him in the crowd. And this is also Chris Jericho's WCW pay-per-view debut. But this is a very competitive match with a lot of good near falls. And at one point, Benoit, like we mentioned before, he's been putting on Boston crabs, but they look more like a lion tamer. And I just thought it was noteworthy because he's facing the man who is going to make the lion tamer famous. So it just kind of be like, that's interesting that someone was kind of doing your move before you.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But at one point, Chris Jericho sends Benoit to the outside of the ring, and Jericho hops on the turnbuckle and hits a springboard back elbow to Benoit, and he smacks the ever-living shit out of him. But then Jericho brings Benoit back into the ring, and he hits a good power bomb for a 2 count. But the finish to this match is Benoit hits a top rope back superplex for the win. But the crowd is super excited to see him win for a match that there was really no build to. This was a pretty good match. This match, though, made Jericho look like $1 million, which is good because he is new. And he's going to get someone the crowd likes who's a good wrestler as well. So he's able to showcase himself pretty well. And for a rating, I give it 3.25 out of 5.
I get a 3.5. Might be the first one I ranked higher than you.
Oh, and I should mention that that match was 14 minutes and 36 seconds. So that's a pretty good time for them too.
Yeah.
And now next we have the Cruiserweight title match between Super Calo and Rey Mysterio. And during this match, there was a pretty big botch where Rey Mysterio is trying to crossbody Super Calo out of the ring, but Super Calo gets stuck in the ropes so bad that both Randy Anderson, the referee, and Rey Mysterio had to help him flip out of the ring so Rey Mysterio can do the next spot.
Randy Anderson had to come in there and help. Oh my God, that blew my...
And Rey Mysterio.
And
That's
Mysterio,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, as JR would say, that was bowling shoe ugly.
And honestly, up until that point, the match wasn't too bad.
No, it's just in Super Calo matches, you can certainly bet on him fucking something up.
Yeah.
But for that match, Super Calo dominated the majority of the match, which again is kind of the
that's Rey Mysterio blueprint. He's gonna the underdog that steals victory from the jaws of defeat.
But the finish for this match was buttery smooth. We mentioned there's 2 rings. So Rey Mysterio springboards off one rope, jumps on another rope, and then hits his Hurricanrana, and he hits that for the win. He hit this so smooth. He jumped from one rope to the next with no hesitation.
It was flawless.
Flawless. That's a good word for it. The whole match itself, I wasn't huge on, and I really think it's just because I'm not huge on Super Calo.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Honestly, if that botch didn't happen, it could have been a 3.5, 4-star match.
This is the biggest difference so far. I gave it 2.25.
Dang.
But yeah, this was, I think, a match that most people probably didn't care about because they're probably more looking forward to the Dean Malenko Rey Mysterio rematch that they've been building up for a few weeks now. And at one point during this match, I could hear people yelling boring, and you could tell some people in the crowd didn't care about it, which I think is a bit harsh.
Yeah, it wasn't boring.
To me, I got to be invested in the characters too to make me care about the match, and I have zero reason to care about Super Calo. But that's just me. Some people do watch matches just without taking that into account, but sorry, not me.
Yeah, that's AEW fans.
Yeah. For the match time for this one, it was 15 minutes and 47 seconds. I think that was a bit long, but we'll move forward to the 6th match of the night. It is the Nasty Boys versus Harlem Heat with Sister Sherry and Corona Parker for the WCW Tag Team titles.
Gonna get nasty.
Yeah, the Nasty Boys actually do have some support in the crowd.
Yeah, fans are actually into it.
The fans have slowly but surely gotten more into the Nasty Boys, so they've been doing a good job there. So late in the match, the Nasty Boys take over the match, but the finish to this match is Knobbs hits a splash off the top rope, and while he is making the pin, Colonel Parker jumps on the apron, but then Sherry runs into the ring and cracks Knobbs in the back of the head with Colonel Parker's cane, and then Booker T covers for the win. I just can't seem to enjoy a Nasty Boys match, but I was very happy that the Harlem Heat won. But the match time for this one was 15 minutes, 31 seconds.
Yeah, it's too long.
That's a bit too long. It was a slog to get through for me. And this is another one that the internet seemed to like more than me. I give it a 1.5 out of 5.
I gave it a 2, and Wrestling Observer gave it 3.5. So that's a bit high for me.
3.5 is a bit high. After this, we go into a backstage interview with Macho Man. Macho Man tells us he is the evil necessity of the WCW, and he guarantees he is going to hit a grand slam against the Giant tonight. Macho Man says he's going to whip the Giant and then go to Halloween Havoc and rip Hogan's black heart out. Macho Man then tells the Giant he is going to cut him in half, and he's going to send a message to the NWO that the WCW will not be denied.
So, obviously, next match is Giant for Savage. When the Giant comes out, they do the Dungeon of Doom music, and then it cuts off halfway. I'm like, I guess someone forgot about the Giant's recent activities.
Yes, because they switch it to the NWO music, and that even confuses the announcers. They're like, hold on, why are they playing this music?
I just thought that was funny. Oh, let's mention that the referee is Nick Patrick, so shenanigans might be coming up.
Yes, it seems to always work out that way for the NWO.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone has some stroke and is making that happen. Another thing that happens during this match, which happens quite a bit during this era of WCW, is that the crowd as a whole looks to something somewhere in the arena, to the aisleway or wherever, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
Later in the match, Macho Man is able to get the Giant off his feet finally with a top rope bulldog, and then he does a scoop slam on the Giant, and the crowd loved it.
Oh, it was big pop.
And then he hits the flying elbow drop as Hollywood Hogan comes out, and Macho Man sees Hogan coming, so he walks towards Hogan, and Hogan retreats down the entrance way, and Macho Man gets near the curtain, and then this is where Hall and Nash come out, and Nash hits Macho Man in the back with a chair. And if you ask, is Macho Man getting counted out? No, he's not. Nick Patrick is busy checking out the Giant, making sure he's okay. It's going to be hard for Nick Patrick to explain this one away, I think. So this allows the NWO to bring Macho Man back to the ring, and then the Giant pins Macho Man for the win as the crowd boos, and they're clearly unhappy.
I was upset too. I was like, because you're having him immediately go for the title against Hogan, Halloween Havoc, and then you have him take a loss to the Giant. But I was like, Giant doesn't take too many losses. But I think it would have been a big boost to the rivalry for Halloween Havoc if Savage had beaten the Giant.
For him to lose the match right before he faces Hogan is a little weird. But they did explain it away as it's just the NWO cheating.
Yeah, which,
as they always do.
Get used to that. You'll be seeing that a lot.
But for the match as a whole, it wasn't anything great. It's the same kind of formula of the person trying to get the Giant down eventually does, and then they seem to almost win, but then lose by some means.
I gave it 1 star.
But I gave it a 2.
I gave it 1 because I was like, I was butthurt.
I should have mentioned the match time was 7 minutes 47 seconds, which is a fair time for this sort of bout. Yeah. But now we're on to the main event time, and then the cage is lowered, and they even gets fireworks. That stood out to me. I was like, wow, the cage gets fireworks?
War game.
But before we get to the War Games match, we do have a backstage interview with Flair, Luger, and Anderson. There is no Sting with them. He's supposed to be there, but we don't know where he's at. Flair says they're in the house the Horsemen built. They're in Winston-Salem. And he says, very shortly, the Horsemen will kick some ass. Arn says Lex Luger lost a friend, they lost a partner, and the WCW lost an icon. And then he tells Luger that Luger was in the Horsemen before, and they are going to do it by themselves, Sting or no Sting. And then after he says this, Sting, the real Sting, comes up to the group.
We're going to get to find out what this traitor's up to.
Who is the real Sting? What is a Sting? But Luger tells Sting that he better say something quick. And I should also note, Sting does not face the camera the whole time. Sting tells Lex that it wasn't him that attacked Luger last week. Luger says he knows it was Sting. I was like, dude, you can't even recognize your own supposed
friend. You couldn't tell close.
I'm like, dude, come on. Luger then says he doesn't believe Sting, and Sting tells Luger if he won't believe him, then so be it. And then Sting leaves in a huff, telling Luger that he will see him in a little while.
I can understand Sting's frustration.
I would too, but I did think this was a very good segment to kind of build more intrigue to the main event. Like, what is going to happen with this Sting deal?
Yeah.
After this, we go to Michael Buffer, who makes the announcements, and he does mention that the NWO does have a 4th member, but they're not going to announce who it is until that person comes out.
Referee is again Nick Patrick.
Yeah, it's just, again, mighty convenient for the NWO. I'm sure that won't factor into the match at all, Jacob.
No.
The announcers mentioned that there isn't usually a ref in a War Games match, and I don't know if it's always true, but I did verify that the last year's one did not have a ref in the cage. And just to remind you, Jacob, that was the Team Hogan versus Dungeon of Doom with the return of Zeus and the Ultimate Solution.
Originally Final Solution.
Yeah. They didn't vet that well.
Rest in peace, Jeep. Rest in peace, Zeus.
I will just go ahead and let you know this War Games match is much better than last year's.
Of course.
First 2 in this match will be Scott Hall and Arn Anderson. The fans are firmly behind Team WCW. During the match, when Hall and Arn are in the ring, the announcers tell us the NWO has won the coin toss, so they have the advantage. And as we progress through the match, this happens multiple times. The clock starts ticking for the countdown, and the wrestlers come out before the time is done.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
And I'm telling you, it's not even close, because when it's Luger's turn to come out, he comes out and there's still 15 seconds remaining on the countdown.
Luger says, fuck this.
Now, so it's Scott Hall, Arn Anderson, then Nash, then Luger, then Hollywood comes out. Hollywood doesn't come out as quickly as Luger. He comes out with 10 seconds remaining. So I don't know why they did that. I don't know if it was mistimed backstage, but it really kind of just, the crowd wants to do the countdown,
It's little stuff like that WCW just didn't do right.
Yeah. And so after Hogan comes in, the crowd starts chanting aloud, "We want Flair," chant, because he is going to be the next one out.
And they are in Winston-Salem.
And then Flair gets into the ring and goes immediately after Hogan. And they're trading shots until Ric Flair brings out some brass knucks and he decks Hogan with it.
But then Flair starts doing the thing where he spams low blows.
Yes, and I do not like that.
Yeah, but the crowd does.
But we see the countdown show up, and Flair has Hogan in the figure four. The countdown happens during the figure four, and then Sting comes out, but it is not the real Sting. It is NWO Sting, and the crowd knows the whole time it's not the real Sting, and you can tell the WCW cameras are actively avoiding giving us a good shot at him, because they kind of pan back.
I don't want you to see Jeff Farmer up close.
So now we have everyone in but the real Sting. So the Team WCW, their countdown happens. Will Sting show up? Finally, we see the real Sting come down to help Team WCW. The real Sting takes care of fake Sting, and the crowd cheers for it. He takes care of him really quick. Sting knocks down all the members of the NWO, and then he yells at his teammates, "Is that good enough?" And then he gestures at them, kind of like, forget it. And then he leaves. And then Sting is out, so now it's a 3-on-4. Hogan gets up shortly after, and then he hits another atomic leg drop on Lex Luger. And the NWO Sting gets the Scorpion Deathlock on Luger. And Hogan also applies a chin lock to Luger at the same time. And senior referee Nick Patrick calls for the bell, saying he heard Luger give up. Did he?
I didn't see him give up.
But ref decision is final. The NWO is declared the winner as the crowd boos. After the match, the NWO continued to beat up the other members of Team WCW. But then Macho Man comes down and he goes after Hollywood Hogan, and he brings Hollywood Hogan back into the ring. But Macho Man doesn't get his revenge, because the Giant then comes down and he chokeslams Macho Man. And then Miss Elizabeth also comes out, and Hogan tells Miss Elizabeth to spray paint Macho Man. But before she can, Macho Man gets chokeslammed by the Giant again, just really beating his ass down.
One more again. Well, he wants to soften him up for Hogan.
Yes. Then once again this week, Elizabeth covers Macho Man, trying to protect him, and Hogan then holds Miss Elizabeth down and spray paints her with the letters NWO, and the Giant barks at Miss Elizabeth for some reason as we hear a loud "Hogan sucks" chant.
Flair's last pay-per-view before his injury, so you would not be seeing him wrestle for a while, but you'll be seeing plenty of him. But he's still currently the United States champion, so obviously they're going to have to do something with that belt.
Yeah. But before the show's over, we do have an after-match promo with the NWO. Hogan calls Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man losers and lowlives, and he says they told each other they would be together till death do us part, and courtesy of the NWO, they are going to make it happen. Hogan then calls them pieces of trash, and he spits on them. Then Hogan starts playing with the crowd as they're booing him, and after the promo, the NWO come up to the announce desk, and Hogan says, "This is NWO country now. Can't do that in Flair country." Ted DiBiase says they proved they are the best, and they want their demands honored. Demands, again, were an NWO tag team tournament and their own sponsored segments on Nitro that WCW will pay for. The lasting shot, as we see, is Miss Elizabeth helping Macho Man exit the arena.
This is one of the not my preferred War Games matches. I gave it a 2.
I give it a 2.75. What did Meltzer give it?
1 3/4. So he didn't even think it was good enough for 2.
Overall thoughts, I did think the undercard matches were good. I like the main event matches clearly more than Meltzer did. This card overall outperformed last year's by a mile.
I mean, it's better than last year's. Last year's, I didn't give it a rating, but if I had to, if I had to, it would be less than a 5 for easy.
So that is it for Fall Brawl. Not a bad show, but we'll go ahead and move on to our next head-to-head, and this is on September 16th, 1996, and we'll start off with Nitro. Nitro opens up. The announcers are apologizing to Sting for not trusting him the past week, and they say he was in Japan last week, and that's why he wasn't at Nitro. He's really arrested. Again, he stole the cop car. You simply can't do that.
WCW paid some hush money. They're good.
Yeah, that's a cover-up. But this is just WCW kind of tucking their tails between the legs. They're trying to make amends to Sting.
We're sorry we accused you of joining the New World Order. We're sorry.
Yeah. But during the opening, we also see footage of people handing out NWO flyers, so more propaganda is spreading. But our opening match is Juventud Guerrera versus Rey Mysterio. You gotta love Rey Mysterio. He just had a title match the night before.
WCW hands out title matches like they're candy.
I'll just go to the finish for this match. This match was only 6 minutes and 54 seconds. It had a great finish, though. Rey Mysterio reversed a top rope powerbomb into a Hurricanrana.
Yes, so beautiful.
Beautiful. I mean, I don't think you can do that move any better. But yeah, for a Nitro match, this was a really good match. Then the finish was a thing of beauty. After that match, we do have a backstage interview with Chris Benoit and Mongo McMichael. Mongo tells Lex Luger to find Sting, and he says Luger made a promise that if they let the Horsemen down at War Games, what was going to happen to him.
This is the one where Mongo screams into the void at the end, by the way.
Iconic moment for us there.
Yes.
Deborah says her husband has made a career out of beating up puffed up bullies like Luger and Sting. Benoit tells Lex Luger he crossed the Horseman's path, and that path is unmerciful. And he tells him he will pay the price. And as you mentioned, Mongo lets out a primal scream.
Nitro right after this.
It's hilarious.
We reference that one pretty often. But then after that, Jacob, we get a Glacier video. And this time we hear from the man.
Yeah, that was interesting. I never watched this video before.
Yeah, Glacier says his name was given to him by his master, and he says he had a burning desire to learn martial arts from a young age, and he found an old master in Japan who became his sensei. He then goes on to talk about his journey and how he developed his martial arts style, and he mentions that the gear he wears is a tribute to gladiators throughout the last 1,000 years, and the symbol on his belt is a symbol for the universe, and the one on his eye is for ice. And then Glacier ends the video with "Be cool." I'm not even joking.
Be cool.
I know. You know that great gladiator Sub-Zero.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, this backstory, no one could give a rat's
ass. That was like the most milquetoast like story. Oh, I met this old master sensei guy.
But yeah, this was just crazy. From this video alone, I could tell you Glacier would be a flop.
Oh, yeah.
For the second match on Nitro, we have Ice Train with Teddy Long versus Diamond Dallas Page. DDP does not get an interest on TV this week for whatever reason. And we also cut to some NWO fans at a merch table. We completely missed the finish of this match.
Yeah. It was during when they cut to the merchandise stand.
Yeah. So then we had to see a replay. The finish is pretty convoluted. We go to a replay and we see Ice Train has DDP in a full Nelson, but DDP is near the ropes, and Teddy Long, for whatever reason, is on the apron.
For no reason.
And DDP grabs the towel that was on Teddy Long's shoulder, and he threw it into the ring, and Nick Patrick somehow missed it and thought Teddy Long threw in the towel, declaring DDP the winner by forfeit.
This only worked because Nick Patrick was the referee. If it was any other referee, this would be really, really stupid.
For this match, though, it wasn't a bad match for the parts we got to see, but to miss the finish was horrible work by the production crew. Even Kevin Dunn himself couldn't do it that bad. And then after this match, we again cut to the NWO fans, and it looks like they have officially taken over the WCW merch table. And they're holding picket signs that say, "Who buys this crap?" I got a kick out of that. But then we'll go...
Well, no, it cuts to the crowd first. And
yeah, you're right.
We have someone recognizable in that crowd. Looks kind of like the 1-2-3 kid. So he's just sitting in the crowd.
Yes. The announcers do say they recognize him as the former 1-2-3 kid.
Okay.
And they do actually say he was released by the WWF. But the third match here is going to be Super Colo versus Conan with Jimmy Hart. And this is for that Mexican heavyweight title again. For this match, the high spots in this match look pretty good. Aside from another huge botch in the match.
Super Colo does a huge botch with Conan. He's going for a front head scissors from the top rope. And he falls basically straight in the ground. It looks like that's where Conan was supposed to be. And so Conan delays his jump a little bit, and he just flips or falls right on top of him.
Which botch would you say is worse?
The one from last night.
Yeah. So yeah, we had that botch, and then later on though, Conan hits a beautiful package DDT type move.
Oh, I love that move.
I think that would be a great finisher.
Yeah, he likes the Tequila Sunrise though.
Yeah, I know. He wins this one with the power drop, but I give Super Calo crap for botching, but I would say he has had 2 good matches in a row, so I will give him that credit. There were a lot of good spots in this match, and Conan winning the match obviously is the right call. But yeah, so I thought this was actually pretty decent. But we'll go over to Raw, and the opening match for Raw, it's a barn burner, people. It is Jake the Snake Roberts versus the Sultan with Bob Backlund and Iron Sheik. So this is the famous Sultan's Monday Night Raw debut.
And if you're not familiar, the Sultan is Fatu, a.k.a. Rikishi.
He'll get a little bit of a better gimmick here in a few years.
Backstory on the Sultan. Lawler does say during the match that the Sultan was captured and held hostage and his tongue was cut out.
So that's why he doesn't speak? Okay.
Vince McMahon spends 0 time on this character.
Yeah, 0 time. One thing that does happen before the match, though, is Jake the Snake chases Jerry the King Lawler away from commentary table because he is still pissed at the shit talking Lawler has done. And that's pretty fair. He says some heinous shit.
Yeah, pretty fair.
But like I said, Vince doesn't seem to care about this gimmick. This match only gets 3 minutes. And the finish for this match sees Jerry the King Lawler, who is still not done with Jake the Snake. He throws into the ring an airplane bottle, which causes a distraction, and the Sultan is able to get the camel clutch on Jake for the win. He does the camel clutch because, guess what? The Iron Sheik did the camel clutch.
JR also hyped his big announcement tonight. Remember, he had been teasing Razor and Diesel.
Well, last week he had to step back a little bit, remember?
Step it back a little bit. But he promises a huge announcement tonight.
But for the Sultan, don't know why they thought this gimmick would work. The pairing between Bob Backlund and Iron Sheik makes sense historically. They are tied together historically, but it just doesn't work for this match.
No.
And this officially puts to bed remember that Fatu angle they were building for like a week and a half?
Yeah. They his family showed that. Yeah, that was weird. They didn't do a damn thing with that.
I am glad I did see it, though, because I didn't know Rosie was there back then. But then after that, we go to a backstage interview with Owen Hart and Brian Pillman. Pillman says that his interview with Brett will be at the next In Your House that is at this upcoming Sunday. And Owen says he is so happy that Pillman got Brett and himself back together again. And he is the happiest man of all. And he tells us that Brett is also a new man. And if you know Owen Hart, he says this in the funniest way possible.
Yeah.
But also during the interview, Stone Cold walks up to them and he says he doesn't care that Bret Hart is coming back, but he says he will be there on Sunday to get some answers firsthand. But we will go to Nitro and we have a ringside interview with the 1-2-3 Kid.
Yeah, so they sent Tanay out there. He's like, oh, Tanay, you gotta talk to this guy. We gotta find out why he's here.
The Kid says he has been keeping incognito and has been in Japan, and he heard that Nitro was the hottest show and was checking it out. Tanay asked him if he saw the pay-per-view last night. 1-2-3 Kid asked like he didn't see it. He said he missed the pay-per-view yesterday, and he asked Mike Tanay who won the War Games match, and Tanay tells him NWO, and 1-2-3 Kid's like, really? They did? Darn.
So that's just too bad.
Yeah, that's just too bad. You can clearly tell he's faking it, but I think he did his best. It was funny the way he did it. Don't that just beat all? But next we got Hugh Morris versus Brad Armstrong. We did have a small "Let's Go Brad" chant. We're not alone, Jacob.
There are Brad Armstrong appreciators out there. Mm-hmm. There are dozens of us.
For the match, it looks like Brad Armstrong's about to eat another loss because Hugh Morris hits No Laughing Matter, and then he kind of stalls pinning him, and he kind of is cocky with his pin attempt. And Brad Armstrong, being the wrestling savant he is, Jacob, he reverses that pin and picks up a surprise victory.
But, I mean, you give him just the slightest chances, he'll tie you up. Rest in peace, Brad.
Yes. But Hugh Morris is a poor sport, and he attacks Armstrong after the match. Hugh Morris, I'm sorry you got beat. Like, get over it. I don't know what you want. And I'm just going to say it again, Jacob. Criminally underrated, Brad Armstrong. I'll say it every time he shows up.
Oh, yeah. No, we will. Yeah. Even when we see Buzzkill, we're going to be like, man, what are they doing to you?
But after this match, we do get a Macho Man interview. Mike Tenay breaks down what happened to Macho Man yesterday as if he doesn't remember. He got chokeslammed 3 times, all this stuff. Macho Man, though, says he is not at rock bottom. He is a million miles below that. And he tells Hogan that it's going to get really scary soon. And he tells Hogan he doesn't think that Hogan can take what Macho Man is going to do to him. After this, we do also see the NWO at their limo drinking from some red Solo cups. And we see the fake Sting there as well. The NWO are bragging that they've beaten up everyone in the WCW. And Nash says he rather likes the sound of NWO Nitro. What do you think? You like that?
After we get through Revision Sold Out, you'll see that's why that's a very bad idea.
But this kind of just illustrates the NWO's goal of just taking over WCW. They're not looking to be a faction in it. They're looking to be the whole show. So that is kind of different than most other factions in wrestling history, I'd say. And then we will go to our fifth match, which is Macho Man versus Scott Norton. Macho Man doesn't wait for Norton to come to the ring. He goes ahead and attacks him outside the ring to start the match. And Norton does get things in his favor by targeting Macho Man's injured shoulder throughout the match. But Macho Man isn't in the mood to be having a wrestling match today, so he decides to hit Scott Norton on the head with a chair multiple times, and some of them were some pretty solid whacks. These were not Hogan chair shots.
Yeah. What's so funny is, like, they actually called DQ for this one, but there's plenty of Savage matches around this time where he's just wailing on people with chairs and the ref does not call for DQ.
I know it's not Nick Patrick because he comes down to the ring to stop the mayhem, and Macho Man shoves Nick Patrick down. And Nick Patrick is going to need some medical assistance after that. But this was a competitive match for the most part. It went 6 minutes, 35 seconds, but it just made Macho Man look dangerous. He's not in the mood to have these wrestling matches. He just wants to get the Hogan. The Scott Norton match means nothing to him. I'm going to go back to Raw.
Next match for Raw is the Smoking Guns versus Bob Holly and Alex the Pug Porto. The only thing I want to mention to start with is they come out to the Steiner Brothers WWF theme, so I thought that was interesting.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Also, during this match, Jim Ross tells us that Razor Ramon will be here next week. I'm very interested. What do you have in store for us? We'll wait and see, but very excited. Then during this match, we see Jim Cornette, British Bulldog, and Owen Hart come down to the ring with some chairs, but they're here to watch the action. They're not going to hit anybody with those. Calm down. But the finish to this match is the Smoking Guns hit the Sidewinder finish on Bob Holly, but Owen Hart jumps on the apron, and Billy Gunn goes up to him, and he slaps the drink out of Owen Hart's hand.
That was really rude.
So this allows Bob Holly to get the roll-up on Billy Gunn for the win. So we had that competing against the NWO. So yeah, I mean, that's just crazy. But I would say the tag team division is slightly more interesting now than it has been, just because we have Owen Hart and British Bulldog.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only reason.
Yes, but that's still better than what we had.
And Gorilla Monsoon comes up.
He says Jim Ross has piqued his curiosity, and he names them by name. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall will not be appearing because they are under contract with another organization, and he apologizes to the WF fans who have been hoodwinked by Jim Ross. Monsoon tells both the announcers or anybody that if there are any more misleading statements, he will have harsh consequences for the perpetrator.
And Jim Ross leaves angrily.
Yep. So next we have an in-ring interview with Vader and Cornette. Cornette says Vader beat Shawn Michaels twice in one night and he didn't get the title or a rematch. Cornette also says he has a lot of things to worry about, including the tag team title match and his match with Jose Lothario. Get ready for that match, people. That is a barn burner. 60-minute Broadway. Cornette says he is going to embarrass the WWF and Jose Lothario because Vader has been training him and he is going to rip right through Jose Lothario. And then we see a sort of workout thing with Cornette. He's demonstrating his wrestling acumen here.
A gentleman named Tony Williams.
But Mr. Williams here, he is mopping the floor with Cornette until Vader hit Williams with a clubbing blow. But then after Vader hits Mr. Williams here, Cornette wraps Williams' arm in the ropes and slaps him around, and we cut to commercial right in the middle of it. I don't even think we saw the ending of it.
It was weird. I guess they had timing issues. So he was slapping him around, and he was calling him Jose Lothario, so he was like pretending that's what he's doing. Jose Lothario.
Well, that is kind of funny. But I would still say the interview part was good. This workout part was a complete waste of time, especially when we're just going to cut the commercial anyway. All right, Jacob, we're going to go back to Nitro. And please contain your excitement because we finally have the debut. Mark it down in your calendars. September, what are we on? That's September 16th, 1996. This is the debut of Glacier, complete with his snow entrance and Mortal Kombat style music. He is finally here.
Yep.
Jay, don't lie to me. You're pretty excited to see it, weren't you?
I just want to get over.
Glacier, the only way I can describe him, he is corny. The way he does all these poses before the match, during the match.
Yeah, man. He does the whole like routine in the ring, but he goes to the turnbuckle and then he just like tumbles down. It looks so dumb. And then, of course, after the tumble, he gets back up and does some more poses.
He does nothing but poses, pretty much. They have him pose in the ring, well, it feels like 5 minutes.
Oh, it's forever.
I would say Glacier is a fine wrestler. This gimmick is terrible. And also for Glacier's first few matches, this one included, they have him wrestle under this blue lighting because, of course, he's ice. Everything has to be blue. Yeah. But I really hate these colored light matches like they did with Kane in the beginning and The Fiend.
I know, it's so dumb. And Sin Cara, they did it for Sin Cara, too.
Oh, that's right. That golden light, yeah. Glacier picks up a quick victory, 2 minutes, 42 seconds. He wins with a cryonic kick, which, like you mentioned, that is a good finisher. And Glacier's entrance is pretty much the only thing that's cool about him, seeing the snowfall. I get that. I also wish he came out with like a mask type thing, kind of like a bandana under his over his mouth. He should have kept that on.
Yeah, it's like once he takes it off, you're not really impressed.
Yeah. But yeah, he just is very cheesy. And when you compare him to the NWO,
it's very out of place. Very out of place. It could have maybe worked like 2 years earlier.
Yeah, 94. Yeah, that could work. So after this match, the real Sting comes out to the shock of the announcers. They didn't know he was here.
No music.
Yep, no music. And Sting says he wants to explain something last Monday.
Well, while he's doing that, he has his back to the camera, talking to the crowd. He does not face the hard cam at all.
No, we get some side shots, but yeah, he didn't look at the hard camera the whole time.
Pretty unique.
But yeah, Sting says he wants to explain something last Monday. He says he was on an airplane watching Nitro, and he thought he was watching a rerun. It was that convincing. He's referencing this fake Sting from last week, and as you mentioned, with Sting not facing the camera, the announcers also are mentioning, says, why is Sting not facing it to us? Has he turned his back on us? That kind of deal. Bischoff on commentary in particular says Sting is turning his back to us because we turned his back on him, so now he is turning his back on us. That is why. So
that is why. No, I like it. I like it. Very unique, very memorable.
Pretty iconic. Sting says last week he saw friends, wrestlers, and commentators doubt the Stinger. Sting says at Fall Brawl, he had to let Lex Luger know it wasn't him, but he says all he got in return was more doubt, and he says he has been a mediator and a babysitter to Luger and has given Luger the benefit of a doubt countless times in the past 12 months, which he has, because there was a time when Luger was intentionally effing this dude over. Remember that match where he pulled him down in the triple threat?
Yeah, Starcade.
And a couple megaphone hits that looked intentional. But yeah, Sting is not lying. He gave Lex Luger the benefit of doubt multiple times. Sting continues on saying he has given blood, sweat, and tears to WCW, and he tells everyone who ever doubted Sting,
you can stick it.
A free agent, and he says that doesn't mean you won't see him. He might pop up from time to time.
Online, some people said that this was the last promo he spoke. I'm like, no, this is not the last one because he hasn't said the iconic line yet about the only thing for sure about Sting. So no, lies. But this was a very good promo for Sting. Through the announcers and Sting, they told a perfect story of why he's turning the back on the camera and everything. So great job here.
Full-fledged start of a Crow.
Fantastic stuff coming up. And then after the promo, Bischoff asks, what about Sting's match tonight? Oh, that's a good question, Bischoff, because it looks like he's not going to be here. But we'll go back to Raw's side. We have Owen Hart versus Mark Mero with Sable, and this is for the second round of the Intercontinental title tournament. And Kevin Kelly tells us that Pat Patterson will be reffing the Intercontinental title final. And during this match, a lot of the commentary for it wasn't really focused on the match. It was focused on Jim Ross and the fake Diesel and fake Razor Ramon story.
When Jim Ross is like, I didn't help but heard about it. Monsoon even comes in. He says nothing ever comes across his desk that say Scott Hall and Kevin Nash have returned to WWF. And he said basically they said they're teased for next week because JR is adamant that Diesel and Razor are still coming.
I trust Jim Ross, so I'm interested to see what he's talking about.
Man, if I was watching as a kid this time, I would have been so intrigued just to get so pissed off by the payoff.
I know. It's so bad.
Obviously, WWF is trying to pop a rating.
Yeah, WWF is just throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
For the match, we see Owen Hart hit Mark Mero with his cast while the ref wasn't looking. But to be honest, where the ref was, there's no way he missed it. But it's okay because Owen Hart goes for the pin and Mero kicks out at 2. Mero then grabs the cast and he hits Owen Hart with the cast for the win. And again, there's no way the ref missed it.
I'm glad Mero took the cast off because I was kind of getting tired of seeing Owen wrestle with it anyway. So this is the end of the cast.
R.I.P. Owen Hart cast.
Great cast right here.
Yeah. So Mark Mero will advance to the finals of the Intercontinental title tournament. We'll see who he faces later this show. We do have a Bret Hart video. He is on a South Africa tour, so he is still wrestling with WWE or WF, but not in the States, I guess. Bret calls Brian Pillman a liar and says he never made any commitment that he would be in Philadelphia at the pay-per-view. Bret says Owen is just as bad a liar as Pillman, and he tells Owen Hart to not talk to him. Bret says he has not decided what he's going to do and doesn't want to say any more than that. I did think it was really odd to tease for weeks now that Bret Hart is going to be at the pay-per-view, only on the go-home show to tell us that he's not.
Yeah, that was weird. You would think they would wait to do that till the pay-per-view.
I wonder if Bret Hart was really supposed to, but then they decided not. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm guessing something just didn't work out.
Well, yeah, confusing. We do have one more match for Nitro before the main event. We have Chris Jericho and Marcus Bagwell versus Arn Anderson and Ric Flair with Woman. And Ric Flair's music plays, but Flair doesn't come out. So we cut backstage and see Flair asking Miss Elizabeth to come to the ring, but she is too scared to come out because she's been getting roughed up by the NWO. Arn tells Flair to leave her backstage, and they do. And Ric Flair finally comes out. And then we see the 1, 2, 3 kid in the crowd with a box of some sort. And then he pushes a button on it, and then these NWO flyers start raining down. And I guess that gummit, we reveal that the 1, 2, 3 kid, now going to be known as 6, is the next member of the NWO.
What's funny is like Bischoff basically asked, does this mean that he's the 6th member? I'm like, no shit. And if people wonder why he's called 6-Pac, well, he's the 6th member.
There you go. I never even correlated that, so that's the first time I heard that.
Well, you learn something every day.
But Bischoff is pissed off at these flyers everywhere. I know Arn Anderson is, because he grabs a flyer and he tears it up. And it's a pretty cool visual, though. There's a ton of these flyers going around. And they do a good job doing the pan out camera for it too. I mean, it's just raining down flyers. We go to commercial break and come back from it, and there's still paper flying. Eventually the match does start, but the fans throughout this whole match are just taking the paper, balling it up, and throwing it into the ring. They're having a lot of fun with that.
WCW crowds always have fun, at least in these years, throwing shit in the ring.
And the WCW gave the weapon to them. They gave them exactly what they wanted. Yeah. Yes, more trash. I wonder if anybody has a copy of the original ones, like if they actually were there and kept it.
Well, people keep McDonald's bags all these years. It might.
Yeah. During this match, we also go backstage and we see the NWO limo, and the NWO exit the limo, and the Giant says they cannot believe they fell for it. I guess he's talking about the fake Sting.
Well, because they come out playing like I think a stereo, and it's playing the Sting audio from last week. So that's what they're talking about.
Right.
Like they fell for it because that was the audio was from a Sting promo.
WWF will kind of copy that one. And then Hogan says Sting is now stung. He loves that line.
When Sting gets stung, you'll be hearing that probably about a few hundred more times.
But essentially, this is just the NWO laughing at the WCW's expense. So then we cut back to the match, and we see Bagwell has Ric Flair pinned, but Woman rakes him in the eyes as the ref is distracted. I think she's done that to Bagwell like 3 or 4 times now.
She likes to get them fingers in there.
And as Arn is one to do, when someone gets the eyes raked, he's coming right in and immediately hitting that DDT.
Arn's DDT is so... I mean, it's not Jake the Snake, but I mean, it's up there.
I am confident in saying it's the second best DDT.
It might be. I'd have to think about that.
But either way, after the DDT, Ric Flair puts Bagwell in the figure 4 for yet another figure 4 pin victory.
Yeah, he's racking them up around this time.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I never knew that was a thing. And the announcers, though, after the match do make mention of Nick Patrick being the official, but I didn't really see any shenanigans, so...
No, I kind of like that. They would do some matches where there were no shenanigans, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it gives you some doubt.
They actually gave this match a lot of time. This was 11 minutes and 6 seconds. For a Nitro match, that's an eternity.
Yeah.
So they just want to give Chris Jericho and Marcus Bagwell some shine against Arn Anderson and Ric Flair, so that makes a lot of sense. That works. So now we are on to the main events. So the main event for Raw is Farouk Assad with Sonny versus Psycho Sid. This is a second round Intercontinental title tournament match. Right as the match starts, the crowd wants to see the finish right away as they chant powerbomb as the bell rings. They're like, okay, we don't care. We just want to see this thing. Before we get to the finish, we have an Ahmed Johnson video. Ahmed Johnson tells Farouk if he thinks what he did was something great or special, it wasn't. And he says all he did was light a forest fire and he will burn his ass up.
Gubba dub, baby.
Yep. Whenever I can understand him, I gotta write it down.
Yeah.
Farouk goes for the Dominator, but Sid reverses it to a choke slam, and then Sonny jumps on the apron, and Farouk grabs a chair, and he hits Sid twice, but Sid is able to kick out at 2. And, Sid's a little crazy, or psycho, as they say, so then he grabs the chair, and he hits Farouk with it, causing a disqualification. After the disqualification, Psycho Sid hits him a few more times. I think this finish only is okay because of Psycho Sid, because his face looks like a dummy because he cost himself a title opportunity.
Yeah, Psycho. It works because Psycho Sid.
I think maybe at one point they were maybe thinking about putting the Intercontinental title on Sid, but with the reactions he's getting, I think they got something bigger planned.
No, we got bigger ideas for you.
Yeah. So the finals for the Intercontinental title will be Mark Mero versus Farouk, and Pat Patterson is a special guest referee. I thought this was a good match. I think it was the best match of the night. Both these guys hit each other with some hard
Yeah, that's not saying much.
I know, but I actually did think it was pretty solid. I gave it a 2.75.
I gave it a 2.
But before Raw ends, we do have an Undertaker pre-recorded video. He says Goldust is first on his list of many on his way to get to Mankind and Paul Bearer. And then Undertaker says it will be the premiere of a new Undertaker. Good. But then we have one more pre-recorded video, and it is Mankind saying if he wins the title, that will make him a sexy boy. I would say for this Raw as a whole, it was a decent episode of Raw, but I did think it was weird that Mankind or Shawn Michaels, neither Mankind or Shawn Michaels were on this show, and it was a go-home show, and they're in a title match.
That's what kills me. Like, I was like, this is a go-home show, and we did like nothing to build to your title match.
And also, we built mainly towards the Intercontinental title match, but that match isn't even on the pay-per-view, and we spent this whole show building to that. So, yeah, very weird go-home show.
Yeah.
The main event for Nitro is going to be Mongo McMichael with Deborah and Chris Benoit versus Lex Luger and what's supposed to be Sting. Sting is AWOL. He say he's out of here. So, Luger is going to be here alone. Bischoff tells us a lot of the big name WCW wrestlers are not going to be here next week, and they're kind of setting up this NWO takeover. So essentially, it is all the big name WCW wrestlers are not going to be at Nitro next week, aside from Macho Man. But for this match, at one point, Luger gets the torture rack on Benoit, and he has it on there for a while, and it sure looked to me that Benoit tapped out, but I guess not, because Arn and Ric Flair come in, and the Horsemen jump on Lex Luger, and as they are jumping on him, we go backstage, and we see the NWO at their limo, and Hogan talks about Macho Man being all alone next week, and Six asks Hogan for some tickets to Nitro next week, and Hogan says he thinks he can even give him backstage passes. Hey, Hogan, you got that stroke?
Oh, he's got that stroke, especially now. They won more games.
That's true. Bischoff lays it in, letting us know that the NWO is planning a takeover for next week, so that they're really trying to sell this hook for next week, and
it's
not a bad idea.
Yeah, I would have been intrigued.
I think it worked, but we knew this match was going to end cleanly, so I'm fine with that. Again, the Nitro main event was new. Overall, this show was decent, but not great. But the top storylines right now for WCW are firing off on all cylinders, and this show was still pretty good. And the NWO didn't even appear in the building aside from Six, if you want to count him. But for this week, I would give Nitro the victory just because the main story they're telling here with Macho Man, for sure, Macho Man and Hollywood Hogan. I mean, that's top tier stuff. Now, the match between Mankind and Shawn Michaels does turn out to be pretty good, but the story isn't there.
Yeah, there isn't much of one.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'd agree. Nitro won. The ratings 3.7 to 2.1.
Dang.
12 weeks.
Yeah, they kind of deserve it.
Yeah, no, it's well deserved.
Because the last Raw we got was that one with Salvatore Sincere in the main event.
Yeah, Undertaker, Salvatore Sincere.
So they deserved it.